Good evening, Black people and all allies fighting for Black liberation, Black prosperity, and Black joy. I'm Charles Blow, and welcome to Prime. Historically, affirmative action has ensured that racial minorities and economically disadvantaged students share the opportunity to attend the same selective universities as their more affluent, predominantly white counterparts. It has also been used to diversify campuses, but many have argued that the policies themselves lead to the exclusion of students who meet the criteria for admission. The Supreme Court upheld the use of affirmative action as it relates to race as a consideration in college admissions for the first time in its ruling on the Regents of the University of California versus Becky in 1978. Since then, affirmative action has been challenged in the federal and Supreme Court, with the majority of cases being ruled in favor of universities that successfully defended their policies. But two new cases and a 6-3 conservative majority serving on the Supreme Court may change that. The Supreme Court, nonprofit Students for Fair Admissions represents the students from Harvard and the University of North Carolina bringing the cases to the Supreme Court to decide whether race-conscious admissions is lawful. In the case of Harvard, the suit alleges that Asian American students have been denied admissions due to the intangible attributes like likability, courage, and kindness in favor of students that meet the affirmative action benchmarks. In the case of the University of North Carolina, the suit alleges that white and Asian American applicants were denied admissions solely to give preference to Black and Hispanic applicants. Both universities successfully defended themselves against lawsuits in federal trial courts, but the conservative-leaning Supreme Court has agreed to hear the cases in October in that session, which could spell doom for affirmative action. Joining us to discuss is the Associate Professor of History at Ohio State University, Hasan Jeffries, and Senior Counsel for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, Michaele Turnage Young. So, first question to you, Hasan. Help our viewers understand why race-conscious admissions is so important.
Well, when it comes to higher education, the history has been racial exclusion. When we think about African Americans specifically attending the major universities, the history is not that long. At University of Virginia, UVA, it was all white and all male up until 1970. And so we see, following the Brown decision and really beginning in the late 1960s and early 70s, universities recognizing that it was critically important to open its doors to qualified African American applicants and students. And so they began to consider race as a factor in admissions, which was wholly acceptable and wholly reasonable, especially because race had been the sole factor in excluding African Americans literally for generations. That has been chipped away. The degree to which race could be considered as one of the factors in admission has been chipped away over the last 40 years, beginning with Bakke in 1978. And most recently, the court has ruled, although it has upheld considering race within college admissions, it has ruled that it can only be, quote unquote, narrowly tailored. So it can be one factor, limited in its in how much it can be weighed. So but it still is key. Even that small little bit has been key to making sure that African Americans, that students of color, are allowed access to our institutions of higher education at a fair level.
Michaele, what do you make of the Supreme Court's willingness to even take these cases?
Well, honestly, the composition of the Supreme Court has changed significantly since it last decided a challenge to race-conscious admissions in the Fisher case. That was back in 2016. As you mentioned, Charles, the Supreme Court first examined affirmative action with Bakke in 1978. It next examined it in Gratz and Grutter in 2003, and of course with Fisher in 2013 and also Fisher in 2016. So the Supreme Court has actually addressed this question, examined it thoroughly 4 times over the past 43 years. And so even though we do have a different composition of the Supreme Court, and there are deep concerns about how this Supreme Court would address these issues, any ruling that calls into question the legality of race-conscious admissions would be a sweeping reversal of 43 years of Supreme Court precedent that has repeatedly affirmed the constitutionality and legality of the race-conscious admissions in higher education.
So Hasan, I mean, help me to understand this. It's not that there are not affirmative actions programs already at these universities, like legacy programs, right? So if I'm a legacy and I get a leg up, and that is part of the consideration for me being admitted, and the university didn't admit black people up to a certain point, and after that they only admitted a few, and therefore you build a legacy with the family over a course of history that includes a race-conscious exclusion. So the only thing that we're talking about here is race-conscious admissions being removed, but affirmative actions, not affirmative actions as we know it, affirmative actions that include things other than test performance will still be able to be considered. How do we make sense of that?
Well, it's not sincere, and for the very reasons that you laid out. If you were sincerely concerned that there be no, as you say, no affirmative actions across the board excluding race, then you would be much more, then the focus would be on legacy admissions. Far more students are admitted or given a greater preference because they are children of parents who went to Harvard, et cetera, or are children of parents who gave large donations than are ever considered simply because or solely because or perhaps because of, in some small way, that they were African American. So we know that on its face, these are not sincere cases. And the person who's bringing them, Ed Blum, is a serial a Supreme Court a person who files these cases, trying to undermine any consideration of race. This is about maintaining white privilege. This is not about extending fairness in admissions.
Well, let's talk about this idea, whether or not this is about extending white privilege. Michelle, what do you make of the fact that members of another minority group, Asian Americans, are the plaintiffs in both of these cases?
It's interesting you asked me that. So here at the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, I have the distinct honor of representing 26 Harvard student and alumni organizations, including 10 different Asian American organizations. So my client group includes thousands of Asian American students, alumni of Harvard University who oppose what the plaintiffs are doing and who absolutely stand together in support of affirmative action and in support of the ability of colleges and universities all across the country to legally take into account race as one of many, many factors in college admissions. They absolutely support the ability of all students to benefit from the educational benefits of diversity. In addition to that, we know that, and it's not just Black students, it's not just Latino students, it's not just Native students. It's also many, many Asian American students who do not have an equal opportunity to get an education in our K-12 system in this country, and who absolutely face both systemic and interpersonal racism along their way, and should absolutely be able to talk about how they overcame those experiences with racism and with not being able to get equal educational opportunities in their college applications, in their personal statements, because we have a system that doesn't provide equal opportunities for many, many, many students of color, including Asian American students. It's imperative that colleges and universities be able to take into account race as one of many factors in admissions.
So Hasan, what do you think would be the repercussions if the Supreme Court either narrowed race-conscious admissions or got rid of it altogether?
Well, we already know what will happen. The number of students of color will drop at these universities across the board. We saw that happen in various cases when the court narrowed and universities decided to stop considering race as much of a factor in admissions. It happened at where I teach at Ohio State. The percentage of African Americans at Ohio State has plummeted from about 14% about 15 years ago to about 5%. And so if you take it off the board, we know what will happen. It will have a disastrous effect on admissions and on the presence of people of color, African Americans, Latinos in particular, at our institutions of higher education.
Michelle, the implication here is that these students these Black, Hispanic students are taking the place of someone more qualified, rather than, the thing I think a lot of times people think about it in these cases is all things being equal, then the hat tip is to the minority or disadvantaged kid. These lawsuits seem to be saying, no, there's another candidate that's very much more qualified than this person, and you're lowering the bar quite substantially to let a Black or Hispanic person in. What do we know about how these students perform once admitted? Because I think it would go a long way to explaining away this idea of whether or not these are just kids who can't cut it, or they shouldn't have been there in the first place.
So there have been a couple studies performed on just that question to try and answer just that inquiry. At the University of Michigan, there was a study done on the Black alumni there to kind of see, how successful are they? Are they comparably successful to their other alumni when they graduate? And the answer is absolutely yes. There was a study done on Black alumni of Harvard Law School, and the same conclusion resulted. They were actually more civically minded, contributing to their communities in a greater way than many of their fellow graduates. We know that standardized tests actually underpredict the potential of Black, Latino, Native American, and some Asian American students. Another thing that, I think many people don't realize is that, there was a study that came out a few years ago that said, hey, if we removed every single Black and Latino applicant from Harvard's, applicant pool, the chances of an Asian American student or a white student getting in would increase by maybe 1 percentage point. There are so few Black and Latino applicants that are it's not as though they are taking anyone's spot. The idea that anyone owns the spot is preposterous, but our numbers are so small, unfortunately, that, removing us altogether wouldn't make a huge difference to any one candidate's chances. But absolutely, the students who are getting into Harvard are, excelling, they're successful. These students are absolutely qualified, and we definitely don't want to give into the slander that Black and Latino students are anything but. Same thing goes for Native American students and also Asian American students and Pacific Islanders who maybe don't have the same educational opportunities that some Asian American students and white students have.
Thank you so much for that. Michaele Turnage Young and Hasan Jeffries, thank both of you for your time tonight. I appreciate you being on the show.